What's happening, guys? Sam Adams here, and welcome to a brand new episode of Caffeinate today for May the 1st of 2019. My name is Samuel Adams, and welcome to today's show. Of course, as always, I do hope this one finds you well, and if you are brand new to the show, this is a daily gaming news podcast where I bring you the hottest gaming news from around the industry, and I keep you updated on what is happening in the industry we all love. And today we've got a slew of awesome stories to talk about, including a brand new VR headset coming from Valve that is its first independently developed VR headset. Not an Oculus Rift, not an HTC Vive, a brand new entry into the market. Very exciting times to be a fan of VR. On top of that, we'll be talking about the Sonic the Hedgehog live-action movie trailer, which is giving people nightmares around the world. Xbox Game Pass May 2019 lineups are pretty impressive. On top of that, Final Fantasy VII arrives on the Switch and the Xbox One. Fortnite has increased its party limit to 16 players. Thanks to some big team modes, and Xbox adaptive controllers will be used for veteran therapy. A good feel-good story to end off your Wednesday lineup. But before we jump into that, I did want to say that some of you may follow me on Twitter, and you might have seen that there was a shooting at my college. I go to UNC Charlotte, and I'm actually graduating on May the 11th, or if that is still actually happening. And, you know, sometimes things happen in a strange way, and you don't know why things happen. The shooting itself, and we'll get into the gaming news in a moment. I know that people don't come for this, but I feel compelled to talk about it. The shooting happened in a building in which I would have been walking next to had I done what I do every week. I decided to leave campus a little bit early on Tuesday. For no reason in particular, I just figured I would risk traffic. And I got incredibly lucky. I'm not saying I would have been hurt because it was mainly inside the building and all that good stuff, but you're just thankful in these situations. Other people weren't so lucky. Other people didn't have some kind of potential divine intervention. And, you know, at the end of the day, I lost classmates. I didn't know people. Of course, names have not been revealed, but I'm not, like, directly affiliated with people. But whenever you're in college, and I think a lot of people can identify with this, even if you don't know people, and even if your school spirit isn't necessarily, you know, glaringly obvious like you might get from stuff like USC or Virginia Tech, stuff like that, there's still this camaraderie where it's like, this is our campus, this is our family. And at the end of the day, you know, you lose family in these situations. And, it's crazy, you know, and so the next couple of weeks at my campus is going to be kind of crazy because, again, we were in the middle of the last day of class. I had literally just finished the last class of my entire college career, and I was on the way home. I hopped in the shower, and then whenever I got out, I checked my phone, and I saw that there was a shooting on my campus literally 30 minutes after I had left. So, you know, it's pretty crazy times, and my thoughts and prayers and all that go out to all of those impacted, all of the people that are having to deal with something no one ever wants to deal with, because, you know, I have no words. There's nothing that can be said. But with that being said, I did want to still do an episode of Caffeinate because life keeps moving, and you have to pick up the pieces and move on, and, you know, it's a bad situation to be in. But with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into today's top stories because, like I said, we keep on moving. So, to kick things off today, Valve has revealed its brand new Index VR headset. Back in 2016, Valve partnered with HTC to create the Vive, a Steam VR headset to compete with the now Facebook-owned Oculus Rift. A year later, they released the Vive Pro, an updated headset with better specs. Today, Valve is announcing its own headset, the Valve Index, that aims to push the boundaries even further than its previous offerings with HTC. In stark contrast to the newly released Oculus Quest, which makes a few sacrifices to bring affordable VR to the masses, Valve's new Index headset aims to be a cutting-edge, high-spec improvement over current VR offerings with a price tag to match. And oh, it's a price tag. The headset alone will cost $500 when it launches in June, with a headset, controller, and base station bundle costing $999. Not for the faint of heart, but potentially worth the price if Valve's claims about performance do in fact hold up. Valve's Index headset offers improved resolution, smoothness, and field of view with a resolution of 1440 by 1600 per eye, which is the same as the HTC Vive Pro, and a step up from the regular Vive and the Oculus Rift, not to mention the upcoming Rift S. That will help lessen the screen door effect you see with lower res displays, which of course is kind of a blockiness, if you will. That'll help lessen that, as I said. It'll also include full RGB LCD screens, not an OLED like you find on current headsets. This display tech allows for more subpixels, which Valve claims will create a sharper image, though there are arguments to be made both ways. It also means blacks won't be as deep on other OLED-based headsets, but if the image is indeed sharper, it may in fact be worth the trade-off. And of course, I suppose we'll have to see whenever the headset does launch. Now, on top of that, there are more specs that can be gone into, but the main thing that stands out to me is the Index has a refresh rate of 120 Hz and experimental support for 144 Hz rather than the 90 Hz refresh rate of current PC-based headsets. That, my friends, is a very big deal, because if you are a PC gamer, you will know that a resolution is but a number in comparison to the other number, which is, of course, refresh rate. It just makes such a difference in your gaming experience. Of course, there are new controllers as well. If you have been paying close attention to the VR space, you may have already heard about Valve's so-called Knuckles controllers, and it seems they're finally going to be available for purchase with the Index. These new controllers contain 87 different sensors, including a pressure-sensitive grip to detect squeezes rather than awkward squeeze buttons, and individual finger tracking rather than just the slightly clunky finger tracking of the Oculus Rift. Plus, you still get all of the buttons, joysticks, and touchpads you are used to from previous hardware, and the controllers cost $279 for a pair, or you can buy them bundled with the headset itself for $749. Now, of course, the base station, which of course has a longer range and a wider field of view than the Vive's previous models, is going to cost $150 each, and again can be bundled with the controllers and the headset for $1,000. But the whole situation here is that this is going to be the best VR experience to date. I want to make that very clear. If you are wanting to get the pinnacle of VR in its current state, this is going to be the headset that you need to go for. Now again, will this be something that is viable for all of the consumers? No, that's just quite frankly impossible. No one can afford, or at least most people cannot afford, $1,000 just to be thrown at something like a virtual reality headset. Now, the big point that I want to make here is that whenever you see the next step up, whenever you see the next, iteration of any kind of technology, it's going to be expensive. That's just the nature of the industry. For instance, we are seeing price points come out for the PlayStation 5 that are significantly higher than those of even potentially the PlayStation 4 at launch, yet still claiming to be affordable. And again, those price points have not been revealed, but you can't go in to the future of technology expecting it to be, I don't want to say affordable, but at least expecting it to be cost-effective, I suppose. I don't know what the best phrasing here is, but it's going to cost money to continue to push the industry forward. Now, even if you don't get the $1,000 bundle to get the newest VR experience, I want to make it very clear that over the next few years, price points are going to drop for this kind of tech, and VR is going to become something along the lines of a console in a way, where you do have an update every couple of years, and then you can invest a couple of $100 here and there to get the next big thing. Now, again, this is the pinnacle VR experience. This is not your PlayStation VR, and of course, as we see, it's already better than the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift. But I think the big takeaway from this, and I say this every time some kind of big VR announcement comes out, so it's probably going to sound repetitive to those that do listen to the podcast, but this is really proving that VR is going places. For Valve to throw this kind of investment behind a brand new VR headset shows that they have faith in where the technology is going and the potential for it to be a big part of the gaming market going forward, which I think is pretty much a pretty big deal, especially going into the next generation of consoles and the next generation of gaming tech, really, because as graphics cards become more impressive and they tout bigger features and more capabilities, you are going to be seeing more of this kind of tech. And it's a very exciting time because more VR experiences also are becoming more fleshed out. They're becoming bigger experiences. They're becoming something that you actually want to experience instead of something like, oh, look, VR Fruit Ninja or Beat Saber, which, don't get me wrong, both are fantastic games, but these aren't in-depth games. I want to get to a point in the industry in which I have the, first playthrough of Skyrim style experience on a VR headset where I'm completely and totally immersed in the world. That, my friends, is what I'm looking forward to one day. However, that day is not today because this is still incredibly expensive and I'm just graduating college, as we just talked about. So I don't have $1,000 to just chunk at a VR headset. And on top of that, you probably need a pretty beefy PC to run this thing anyway. So, keep that in mind as you were thinking about purchasing this. But if you did want to get in on the future of VR, then it looks like this is going to start pre-orders today, May the 1st, via the Valve website, and the hardware is targeted to be shipped by July the 1st of 2019 if you do want to dive in and give it a shot. Again, tons of games for the HTC Vive, the Oculus Rift, and the Valve Index, also currently available, but also coming in the future. Pretty exciting times, to say the very least. However, let's go ahead and dive into this live-action Sonic movie trailer, because, oh my god, I have never seen anything take the internet by storm. That's an exaggeration. Things take the internet by storm all the time. But this trailer looks absolutely interesting. Sonic the Hedgehog is getting the live-action movie treatment, whether you like it or not. Sonic the Hedgehog has been speeding our way for some time. A character poster that revealed Sonic's muscular physique arrived in December to various reactions. In March, a marketing deck with the full version of Sonic leaked, also to various reactions, and no one was quite sure how the beloved Sega character would actually look when translated to the big screen. But now, with this first trailer, we finally get to see the speedy blue hedgehog in action. He runs, he talks with Ben Schwartz's voice. Seeing him in the hairy blue flesh makes the disconnect between the classic game designs and the frightfully realistic posters a little more palatable. It's not just Sonic who gets a chance in the spotlight. Jim Carrey's Dr. Robotnik also makes an appearance in the trailer, and we first got a glimpse of Sonic's arch nemesis in a leaked photo, as I reported on Caffeinate yesterday, and as we saw across the internet as well. But the footage showcases the wackiness Jim Carrey brings to the role of Ivo Eggman Robotnik. Rounding out the cast are James Marsden and Tom Wachowski, the sheriff of Green Hills, and Adam Pally, a fellow cop. The plot of the movie, directed by Blur Studio veteran Jeff Fowler, will follow the two small-town cops as they journey to San Francisco with Sonic to defeat Dr. Robotnik. And again, the movie comes out on November the 8th. But without a doubt, sometimes there are just certain things that probably shouldn't happen. A live-action Sonic the Hedgehog movie is likely one of them. Let me tell you right now, whoever designed Sonic, let's sit down and have a talk. There are specific things you don't mess with, such as lanky, small legs. Don't take those away and replace them with those of a 15-year-old track and field runner, because that makes me feel strange. This is horrible. I want to make that incredibly clear. I'm not trying to be mean to those behind the scenes of this movie, but oh my god, who designed Sonic? Now, on the other hand, Dr. Robotnik, not that bad. Actually looks pretty good. Again, as I said yesterday, whenever we saw the leaked Dr. Robotnik, Jim Carrey brings so much to this role. And if you think back to stuff, as I said yesterday, like Ace Ventura, like The Grinch, the facial animations Jim Carrey can make, combined with this incredible mustache, they make something that's very special. I think that actually Jim Carrey is going to be carrying this movie throughout its entire existence. And I also want to, in conclusion, point out a big thing that I think a lot of people are missing. I see a ton of people that are grown-ass adults on Twitter talking about a Sonic the Hedgehog movie. This isn't a movie made for people like me and you, if you are, I assume, similarly in age, where I'm 22. This is not made for people that are older. This is made for people between the ages of 10 and 15 to go to a movie with their grandma and be like, hey, we're going to see the Sonic movie. And that's what this actually is. This isn't supposed to be a AAA blockbuster coming out in November. No. This is supposed to be just a fun, lighthearted video game movie. I mean, Jim Carrey has a mustache with the pointy... This isn't an actual, like, movie. And I hate to be the guy to say that, because it seems like a lot of people have been looking forward to this for a very long time. I was completely unaware of that. But again, if you did want to check out the full trailer, it is up right now on YouTube with a staggering 12 million views as of the time of recording this video. But man, what a terrible trailer that one is. It just does not look like a good movie. But again, big fan of Jim Carrey. I think he brings a lot to the comedy field. And of course, this is a very funny movie whenever you really look and see what the DNA of this movie is trying to proclaim. It's not supposed to be a serious take on Sonic the Hedgehog. Let's make that very clear. This is supposed to just be a pretty funny little diddle, if you will. But again, various reactions. I would encourage you to go on Twitter and search Sonic and just go through the entire list of things that people are saying, the edits people are making. I've seen people edit the mouth of Sonic onto his eyes. I've seen people edit Sonic's eyes onto his mouth. I've seen people edit Steve Buscemi's eyes onto Sonic's face. The internet blows my mind sometimes. It's phenomenal. However, now that we've talked about that, curse on humanity. Let's talk about Xbox Game Pass, because May of 2019 is looking like a pretty good month for the service, adding games such as Wolfenstein 2, The Surge, and Black Desert, all in May. Xbox Game Pass subscribers will get access to at least 8 new games as part of the service in May, starting with Bethesda Softworks and Machine Games' first-person shooter Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, and Chucklefish's strategy game Wargroove. Both titles will be joining Xbox Game Pass on May the 2nd. 1 week later, on May the 9th, Game Pass subs will get 3 more games. Paradox Interactive and Haymont Games, I believe I said that correctly, Space Survival Simulation Surviving Mars, Fulbright's Sci-Fi Narrative Adventure Tacoma, and Pearl Abyss's fantasy online role-playing game Black Desert. May's lineup rounds out with tabletop roguelike RPG For the King on May the 10th, and on May the 16th, the sci-fi action game The Surge, the kid-friendly action game Lego Batman 3 is also being added, and Microsoft will likely add more additional Game Pass games for May. You can always follow them on Twitter, because that's where I tend to see most of the big posts. But of course, the service itself costs $10 a month, and they always have more than 100 games lined up for your amusement. And of course, the first month's membership is always only $1, or at least right now. That could always change. It seems like that's a promotion they put on for a good long while from time to time. But when it comes down to it, what is the big takeaway from this story? Wolfenstein 2 free on Xbox Game Pass, or at least being added to Xbox Game Pass. I suppose free isn't exactly the right word there, but very exciting. Of course, Xbox Game Pass, the best deal in gaming without a doubt. Phenomenal affordable deal if you do want to just get a slew of games to play. And I always say this whenever I talk about Xbox or Xbox Game Pass. If you are somebody that doesn't have a console right now, or if you know somebody that does want to get into gaming but doesn't want to invest a ton of money, to be able to get a used Xbox One S or an Xbox One S all digital, which is one that's going to be launching in a couple of weeks, to get the entry-level Xbox One and a Game Pass subscription. And of course, there is the bundle with Xbox Live Gold and Xbox Game Pass coming for $15. For $15 a month, plus about a $200 roughly entry fee, you can literally access most of the big games for this generation. That's phenomenal. There is nothing like that on the market in any other kind of space, including PlayStation, Switch, whatever you want to call it. This is the best way to experience some of the generation's biggest games. And of course, some games are free, like Fortnite, so you can dive in and get a big swath of games in your library at a relatively affordable monthly rate. However, if you did want to dive into Wolfenstein 2 along with stuff like The Surge and Black Desert, May of 2019 is the month to check out Xbox Game Pass. However, let's talk about Final Fantasy VII, because right now, speaking of Xbox, it's out on Xbox One as well as the Nintendo Switch. It is the first time the JRPG has been available on a portable system, of course, in regards to the Switch. I suppose maybe you could buy a screen and glue it to your Xbox One, and that would be portable, but we all know what we're actually talking about here. Final Fantasy fans have a new option with which to get their fix on the go, as Final Fantasy VII The Zodiac Age has arrived on Nintendo Switch as well as Xbox One. The remastered edition of the expanded JRPG debuted on PS4 in 2017, and it came to Steam last year. Meanwhile, Final Fantasy X and X-2 landed on Switch earlier this month. You can swap between the classic soundtrack and a re-recorded one, while there is a trial mode that should test your skills. There are several other new features that should enhance your playthroughs, including a license reset function by talking to Clan Centurio's leader, Mont Blanc. I'm not going to read this. Additional Gambit sets, improved New Game Plus, and specific to Xbox One X, support for up to 60 FPS. And of course, if you did want more info, all of the articles are linked down below, and you can go check it out on your respective storefront, whether you be on Xbox One or Switch, along with PS4 and Steam as well. But it's good to see this has been able to reach all of the major consoles for this generation. Of course, Final Fantasy VII, excuse me, this is not 7, my bad, it's 12. Let's back up. Final Fantasy 12, it is early in the morning. Let's just go back and reset. That's Final Fantasy 12. So Final Fantasy 12 is on the Switch and the Xbox One, as well as the PS4 and the PC. Wow, Roman numeral crash course right there for me. My bad. Completely blew my mind. But again, Final Fantasy 12 arriving on the Switch and the Xbox One today. Also out on the PS4 and the PC, as we all talked about. But again, tons of new features, all that good stuff. You can check it out if you do want to. But let's move on from the embarrassment of not being able to read Roman numerals at 7:30 in the morning. Fortnite now lets you play with more friends thanks to a new 16-player party compatibility. Fortnite's big team game modes just got a little bit friendlier. Fortnite may be a battle royale game on its surface, but over the last year it has also morphed into a place to meet friends and spend time together in a digital space. With that in mind, it's no surprise that Epic has increased the party limit in Fortnite's big team game modes to 16 players. This new feature is called Large Party Support and was announced in a tweet on Tuesday morning. Players can group up in these large parties in any of Fortnite's larger modes like Team Rumble, Creative, or even Endgame while it lasts. The idea of larger parties is something that players have been requesting from Epic since limited time modes first launched, and modes like 50v50 seemed like the perfect fit for players to get more friends into matches. These big team game modes have always been fan favorites, and it's likely to change how large groups are able to play together in the future. And so that's pretty much where it sits right now. If you do want to dive in and check out these 16 player parties, they are now live in Fortnite, thanks to the guys over there at Epic Games. Now I will say, I'm normally a solo player when it comes to almost all multiplayer games, just because that's kind of how I roll. It's always been something that I've tended to lean towards. I've just been a solo player most of my life. But with that being said, there are so many people that make friends, as this article says, online, that get an entire group together from stuff like school, college, whatever you want to do, work, and you want to sit down and play a couple of rounds of Fortnite together. And so to be limited to a squad of 4 people is a very limiting number, especially if you have a large swath of friends that do want to play Fortnite with you. So to be able to dive into the Avengers Endgame mode, for instance, and play with 16 players, that is phenomenal, that's exciting, and that's something that I am very happy to see. I would love to see bigger party sizes become the norm for a lot of games, but I do want to make it very clear that squads should remain between 4 and 5 people. That just makes sense, and that makes things easy. And whenever you're playing with randoms, that's the best kind of number to try and fit with, because again, if you are trying to play solo squads, whatever you want to call it, dive in and check out the game without having any kind of friendship group with you, that is pretty much the ideal number, not 16. However, if you did want to dive in and check out these 16-player parties, congratulations, you can now do that. However, Xbox adaptive controllers will now be used for veteran therapy, and it's a feel-good story to end on our Wednesday. The accessible controller will help both rehabilitation and fun as well. The Xbox Adaptive Controller might just become an important tool for some U.S. military veterans. Microsoft and the Department of Veterans Affairs have formed a partnership that will donate controllers, consoles, games, and adaptive gear to 22 Veteran Affairs rehabilitation centers across the U.S. The accessible gamepads will help with rehab and therapy activities focused on hand-eye coordination and muscle activation, and should help veterans both have fun and socialize. VA staff will provide feedback to Microsoft both on the usefulness of the adaptive controller for therapy as well as the overall experience. Microsoft says the 22 centers represent initial contributions and that you can expect more. The controllers will also be available at hosted events such as the National Veterans Wheelchair Games. While it's unclear how well the adaptive controller will work as a therapeutic measure, this could still be an important gesture. It could ensure that soldiers who have faced amputations, neurological conditions, and other challenges can relieve stress and reconnect with others through a common hobby. And I always love to just pour out love for the Xbox Adaptive Controller. The fact that Microsoft has been able to put some research and development towards this initiative is absolutely phenomenal, because I'm a big proponent of the idea that everybody should be able to play games, regardless of your life circumstance, regardless of what's happened. You should be able to access games and have a good time playing games, and the Xbox Adaptive Controller allows people to come to a game and it meets them where they are in life. With whatever kind of challenges they may bring to the table as well, it copes with that and it makes it work, and that is just something that is absolutely phenomenal. Now, of course, to be able to also supply feedback to Microsoft is something that is going to propel this kind of tech forward, because this is without a doubt not going to be the only Xbox adaptive controller to hit the market. There are going to be others to come in the future, and so to be able to iterate on this and to be able to bring something new to the design that makes it even more accessible for people is absolutely phenomenal and very exciting. So to live in an industry and to live in a world where it has an industry where people can just play games regardless of what's going on in their lives, that's fantastic in my opinion, and I cannot wait to see what the future of Xbox brings, as well as where Microsoft takes the adaptive controller and what kind of uses they can figure out for it over the coming years. However, that does round out today's episode of Caffeinate. Of course, if you are brand new to the show, be sure to subscribe on youtube.com/SamuelAdamsMedia and stay up to date, or follow on Twitch at twitch.tv/TheSamuelAdams, because the show is hosted live 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time if you did want to check it out. Or you can always follow me on Twitter, and I will let you know when all of these big things happen. But until next time, you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. I will talk to you soon, and peace.